unbelievable, which is why I wanted to talk about it today. So this is what happened. A family member of mine calls me and says, this happened a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago now. I've been having heart palpitations, really serious fatigue, and what was the other thing? I think it was like super low blood pressure. The heart palpitations was the big thing that they were concerned about. Yeah. And so she called me and she was like, this has been going on. I'm gonna like get a referral to like a cardiologist. I'm really concerned. She's in her 60s-ish. And so she first went to her primary care. You know me, I'm always like, okay, get your vitamin D and get your B12 and like, some basic stuff. I'm not her healthcare, I'm not her practitioner. Again, this is just a family member of mine. So I was like, vitamins and minerals. Yeah. Okay. So she comes back and she gives me a call and she's like, hey, so I just got my labs back and it looks like my B12 is a little on the low side and my vitamin D was okay. And so my doctor's giving me a referral to a cardiologist. And she's like super concerned. And so I was like, okay, well, read me your numbers. Okay. Because what's considered, and I gave her the whole spiel, right? What you and I talk about all the time. What's considered normal or deficient, right? It's not an obvious cutoff point. It's not like vitamin D at 31 is fine, but 30 is not okay and 20 is bad, right? Like the body doesn't work like that. It's like what's normal versus optimal. So I'm like, tell me your numbers, because the perspective I'm looking at it from is different than your doctor, because I'm looking at optimal nutrition status. So she reads me her vitamin D, and I think it was like 30 or something. Well, optimal range is 50 to 80. So I was like, okay, well, we definitely want to get that number up. So let's do that. But that doesn't explain your symptoms. It'll help your immune system. It'll help everything. Okay. So we want to get that number up. It's like, what's your B12? Her B12, I think it was, I can't remember the exact number, but I think it was about 180. Okay. The cutoff for deficiency is around 200. So the doctor said, you're slightly deficient. I tried not to lose my shit. I was like, you need to start supplementing like years ago. Like, this is really bad. Vitamin B12 isn't going to be entering the brain and being utilized properly in the central nervous system until it's at about 800. 800, and she was under 200. Do you know what symptoms of B12 deficiency are? Heart palpitations, fatigue. And she was like, I don't understand. Like, my doctor said that I'm only slightly deficient, that this isn't. And I was like, no, like, please. So I got her set up on a supplement routine to boost her B12 levels. And within a week, she was feeling more energetic. Within a month, she was like, I haven't had this much energy for like as long as I can remember, and my heart palpitations are gone. Within a matter of a few weeks, less than a month, she canceled her appointment to the cardiologist. She was like, I don't need to go. It was B12 deficiency. Like, she's feeling amazing.
Yeah.
And here's the best part, and by the best part,
functional medicine doesn't work, right? Remember, functional medicine's rubbish. It's make believe. It's
that's like basic. That's not even functional. That's just basic nutrition recommendations. Okay, here's the best and worst part. Best being, I mean, the juiciest, and worst being, I mean, this is a great representation of our healthcare model. When she went back there, so when her doctor called her about the results, or there was some kind of follow-up, and she said, you know, my family member is a dietitian, and this is what she recommended, so I'm going to give this a try. Her doctor shamed her and said basically that she was going to be giving herself expensive urine by taking supplements because vitamins and minerals can't actually be absorbed through supplements, which is just like BS. I mean, that's just not factual at all. Like, not factual. And is actively discouraging her. Not just like, if he was like, hey, I don't know anything about this, like, work with a dietitian, cool, please do that. Like, if this isn't your specialty, like, you should really say that. But like, to be giving someone misinformation about their health. I mean, look, I have seen someone, when I was working in the hospital, I saw a teenager become paralyzed because his B12 levels were so low. He went from playing basketball one day to a week later using his grandma's walker because he couldn't walk on his own. He was 16 years old. from B12 deficiency. Like, this is not a joke. These are active, these are active molecules in our body that are essential for cellular functioning. And again, B12 is essential for the nervous system. So, like, dangerous advice. And then, and when I talked to her when she was feeling better, she was like, oh, I want to go back to my doctor and like tell him what's up, because this is like not okay that he gave me dangerous advice. He shamed me for wanting to first address the obvious issue. And like blew me out.
There's a couple of things at play here. So you've got a level of ineptitude, right? Because the training that doctor received was insufficient for solving a health.
Insufficient is a generous word,
right? Hence ineptitude at the start of my sentence. Right? So you've got that going on, but you can only expect people to know what they know, right? And hopefully they've got some idea that there are things that they don't know, and they don't walk into the room with their ego first saying that they're sort of the god in the white coat, right? But if you go to a traditional doctor, or if you go to an allopathic doctor or an allopathic vet, you've got to expect to get an allopathic answer, right? It's common sense. What most people don't realize is that there's another doctor and another vet you can go to for a different set of advice. And hopefully that's some of the things that we're starting to identify for people. But you can only expect them to know what they know. However, part two of what you're saying there, right? The shaming, now that is way, way beyond the call of duty of a doctor, right? A physician or a medical practitioner is not there to tell you how to like change your character, your personality, your mindset.
Or even tell you what you should or shouldn't do.
Right? They're there to provide you with hopefully correct information
and options
and access to get to a pathway of healing, right? Bedside manner comes and goes. Some people have it, some people don't have it, right? Intelligence and aptitude and retention of knowledge and communication skills, right? That's all variable within the individual doctor, how well they've got those emotional quotients, you know, rounded out in their life. But to shame someone is not doing that. It's not part of the Hippocratic Oath, right? Do no harm. By shaming someone, you've just done harm, right? You haven't physically made them bleed, but emotionally you've made them bleed.
Yeah.
Right? They've just broken their oath of do no harm.
Yeah, I think she might find a different healthcare provider, a different doctor.
I would.
Yeah. Like, who wants to go back to that?
Your trust is gone. Because now you don't feel like you can be vulnerable. You're always vulnerable when you're sick, right? You're always vulnerable because you compromised, you're subpar. So why would you walk into a situation where you know you're vulnerable to a person that you don't feel safe with, or you don't trust? How can you possibly expect a good outcome from that?
And also, how can you trust that they're going to give you any kind of good advice?
Right.
Like,
right.
What, you know.
It didn't work before, and you were wrong, and you told me off.
Right. Or even believe you that you're feeling better. Who knows? Maybe not. Maybe you won't, you know? And it's so funny because, you know, doctors here in the States don't really get any nutrition education, none to speak of, like maybe 10 hours or so. Like, it's just, and yet the number of individuals I've spoken to who they've been told, they've been actively discouraged by their physician to get support from a dietitian has been astounding. I've had individuals come to me and say, well, my doctor told me I shouldn't work with a dietitian because they have more schooling than a dietitian has. Yeah, because I didn't study pharmaceuticals. I studied food.
Biology.
So if you first of all, I have just as many number of years as education as a medical doctor. But second of all, if you're giving nutrition advice and you're saying don't go to a dietitian because they have less education than me, you're saying your 10 hours of education is more than a dietitian's however many years plus experience. Like, it makes no sense at all. And this is what really pushes my buttons is people speaking outside of their expertise and pretending that they are the one and done. That's the problem. Look, there's no problem in being a physician. Like, please, we need physicians. right? I can't, if I have a patient who wants to take pharmaceuticals, let's set you up with a good physician because that's not my realm.
Right. And I do the same. I'm referring people into this particular vet or to that specialist because I'm not going to be practicing those things.
Right.
I can give you this much and then refer you on to who you need to speak with.
But we need a team approach. And we've talked about this in pocket coaching before, right? Creating a well-rounded healthcare team is really important. Like if you need surgery, please go to a surgeon, right? Like don't go to your dietitian. Like, and I've had so many people who have been told similar things about the role of nutrition and vitamins and minerals. I had someone else who was told that, so they had a very severe vitamin D deficiency. I think it was like single digits. I think their vitamin D levels were like 8. Like, no. 8. Like, 8.
How are they even alive?
They were getting sick all the time, like back to back to back to back, like could not even function because they were so sick all the time. And I was like, low-hanging fruit, let's get you started on a vitamin D supplement because clearly you're not taking in enough from the sun and from your food, right? Let's get those levels up and then we can work on maintaining them. Mm. Their doctor was like, it was like, he said, don't take a vitamin D supplement because you're just going to pee it out. I said, okay, wait, hold on. First of all, vitamin D is not even a water-soluble vitamin, so you can't pee it out. Like, first of all, that doesn't even, like, if you know even the basics of...
Yeah. Fat-soluble vitamins, water-soluble vitamins, totally different pathways in the body. Totally,
yeah. And then, of course, there's that issue, which just tells you how little he knew. And then the whole issue of he knew how sick this person was. They were getting bone pain. Again, another sign, vitamin D deficiency. Like these symptoms started going away once they started supplementing. So,
wow, fancy that.
Who knew? Who knew, right? It just drives me crazy. I feel like I have a million stories like this. And again, like it's the same story.
It is.
Said in a different way by a different person.
And that's the same story. And it's the same story on on my side of the coin as well. Luckily you don't typically have animals coming out being shamed, right? Because that works differently. But pet parents certainly get shamed. Yeah. With some, if you go in and say, listen, I'd rather not have a booster shot, thank you very much, but can we do a titer test, right? And there are some vets who are fantastic and will say, yes, of course you can, no problem at all, let's sort that out for you now, right? And then there are others who are going, why would you want to do that? You shouldn't do that. And then if you as the pet parent insist, then I've heard stories of people being charged $400 for a titer test, right? They've thrown another zero on the end of the price ticket to defer you from taking what is your freedom and right to choose a different thing, to test before you put in an application, test before you add a medication, right? Because why would you want to put something in the body if the body doesn't need it? So let's test and see if the body does need it, right? It's common sense. It's smart. It's protective practice. It's you being a responsible pet parent and protecting your pet from all of the negative, and there are a lot of them, side effects from unnecessary vaccination, right?
It's a radical idea.
And to be punished like that by saying, oh, well, okay, it's $400 instead of $40, right, is criminal. That's literally criminal. That's like an extortion thing to make you do the other thing. That's forcing.
Right. Taking away your options. And here's my radical idea. What if we had a conversation and said, hey, these are pros and cons of vaccines, and these are pros and cons of titer testing. What would you like to do as the pet parent? What if we had a conversation about these are the pros and cons of supplementing with vitamin D when you're vitamin D deficient? Can't really think of any cons, but what if we had that conversation, right?
Yeah.
Because you can decide with having the knowledge. We treat people like they're stupid. Like, you can't make a decision. Let me just tell you what you have to do.
I think you've just tapped into a root thing there. And that came out of the early 20th century medical ego, right? Where doctors in the first half of the 20th century for certain, and I can't really speak so much to the latter half, but they were very much told that your patient is an inferior to you. You are basically a god in a white coat. What you say is law and gospel and whatever else, right? And you do to the patient. You're not in a relationship with them. You're not in a communication. You're not on equal footing with them. Like none of those things. It was very hierarchical, and this controlling thing of like being a parent, right, or some kind of, I don't know, whatever, but taking away your autonomy as a patient, taking away your choices, taking away your freedom to choose, taking away your information, right? And we've seen in history this happens time and time again. Like, for example, right, when the medieval church took Bibles out of the hands of the people, right? The people could no longer read first, the evidence for themselves. They were only told what was told from the pulpit. Of course, then they changed that to be whatever they want it to be. And it's the same concept here, right? You've got doctors instead of bishops, but you're just saying, well, I'm going to tell you from the medical pulpit what you should have to have. And you don't get to have any information yourself to make a decision or to choose elsewise. And thank God for the internet, right? Because now we all can, even if it is just Dr. Google, right? But we can at least get access to some information and then start a conversation. If your physician or your vet doesn't engage in a conversation, then you're going to go somewhere else before you sign on the dotted line to go and have whatever procedure done.
And a lot of healthcare practitioners are threatened by that. I've heard of doctors having in their offices like signs that say like, don't compare Dr. Google to my medical degree, things like that are really just, again, going back to, I feel like that's shaming people for wanting to have information. If someone comes to me and says, hey, I read this thing on Google, I'm like, cool, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Why not? Why not empower people with more knowledge and give them more perspectives and help them understand what that means for them?
Right. And you come to another root cause. So why is it that the doctor or the vet feels like they have to be in control? They have to be in charge. They have to have all the answers. They'll make it up if they don't know. I mean, that's an extreme case. But why is that? Why do they feel threatened by information? And I don't have a one and done answer to that. But typically, if you look at human behavior on a general level, we've gone down a rabbit hole here. But people feel threatened when they don't have a sense of strong self-worth, when they don't have a strongly rooted identity. So if you're a doctor because that's your identity and you're not much of a dimensional person outside of that thing, then if someone tries to rock that a little bit, you're going to fight back like a vicious tiger because you're going to feel that your identity is being attacked. And then if that's stripped away from you, what have you got left? You don't know who you are. There's an identity crisis. And so human behavior stuff this kind of thing happens in animal behavior and stuff too, but obviously not so much on an ego level, but in a safety position that it does. So it's a common thread all the way through. So if we can choose doctors and vets who have really strong senses of self-worth and don't have an identity crisis when you come to them with hey, I just read this amazing paper about why this particular thing isn't the greatest thing or that is the greatest, right? And the vet can say, oh, amazing, I didn't have a chance to read that paper, right? I'm pretty busy with the practice. Hey, but I'll take a look at that. And next time you come in, let's have a chat. Amazing. That's exactly what you want in your healthcare provider.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. On that note, Birdie's whining at me because she has to go pee. So let's wrap it here. And Peanut's actively falling asleep.
Peanut often actively falls asleep.
It was very amusing. Hopefully people listening to these conversations are more entertained than Peanut is because she's like, I hear this too much. Like, can you stop talking about this? All right, guys, we will be coming back tomorrow, 9:30 Eastern, same time, continue the conversation. So until then.